The Great Idea of the Day Club. Hi, I'm Brian Pombo. Welcome back to Brian J. Pombo Live. I have a little piece of memorabilia. I was getting ready to get rid of it, but I wanted to tell the story behind it. And I wanted to find something interesting because this does bring back an interesting memory for me. And it's a great reminder of how different we all are. This was a from a specific client and his company. He owned a nice building and had a nice parking lot associated with it. And as we started using this parking lot, he realized that, okay, there's going to be certain times when he wants to be able to put more people in that parking lot as his company was growing, and realized that other businesses were using the parking lot without asking or anything. They assumed because it was next to some other businesses that it was open game for everybody. Even though at one time it did have signs up saying private parking and everything else. So I believe they added some signs and they gave everybody that had any relation to this, to my client, a parking pass. Had these put together, told everybody, put out a massive email saying, everybody, make sure you have a parking pass there, or there will be consequences involved and so forth if you aren't using your parking pass, and we'll be towing people who don't have a parking pass and so on and so forth. So this was all passed out. I was diligent to make sure I had it in my car, and if I was using our other vehicle, I made sure I brought it with me. And somebody was somewhat put in charge of making sure that everyone got these. But beyond that, it never went anywhere. There was never anybody put in charge of looking after it over the long term. There was never anybody, there was never really any rules set aside for how do we handle the people who aren't using a pass. And this went on for a handful of weeks. And eventually, within a month or so, it had pretty much fizzled out, and there was really nothing beyond the initial good idea, because it was a good idea. It was a good idea to have this and to have them all numbered, to offer them, possibly even offer them for sale for employees of the other businesses locally. I mean, there could have gone a couple different ways with it. Why didn't it go any further? And this is not to mock or make fun of anybody. Different people, their brains work in different ways. And this is really what I want to focus on. And I've talked about it a lot in previous episodes. You could find other episodes where we talk about conation. And what conation is, it's a very specific part of the brain. Well, there's a part of the brain that's you refer to as the affective part of the brain. And that's where your personality comes from. It's where a lot of your interactions with people, how you regulate emotions and communicate, a lot of that comes from the affective part of the brain. There is the cognitive part of the brain, which is where we believe we hold a lot of our memory, where a lot of knowledge is based out of, and everything else. That's something that's very fluid. It comes and goes depending on who you are, but that's the cognitive end. That's how we measure that with IQ and so forth. And then there's the conative part of the brain, which people don't pay enough attention to. And the person that's shown the most amount of attention to this in the past few decades has been Kathy Kolbe of the Kolbe, the Kolbe company. They came out with the Kolbe Index, where they actually can measure, in a sense, which extremes you come from on a conative basis. Now, what is conation? Conation is how you work, how you function, how you do things. So you could also relate it back to how you do schoolwork. It's the same part of the brain. It's not what you memorize, the cognitive end. It's how you do a thing. And there are four major extremes to this. The type of person who's really good at ideas usually has a high amount of what they call quick start. I relate with this because that's where the area I come from. High amount of quick start. Really quick at starting things, at getting an idea going, putting an idea out there into space. But if that person also doesn't have a whole lot of follow through, which is another one of the 4 areas that they measure, then they're really good at putting ideas out there, but they're not necessarily good at following up with it and making sure that it happens. It takes it somebody that already has that. Now, the funny thing about the conative part of the brain is it doesn't change much. They've measured it through the years, all the way from infants. And Kathy Kolbe says that she could take an infant and tell you very close to what their conation is going to be by the time they're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. They can measure infants and see that your conation really doesn't change throughout your lifetime. You'll have, I think you'll have a little bit of flexibility in certain areas. You can certainly build up patience with people with the other conations or conative abilities, but it doesn't really change much. And so somebody who can come up with really good ideas, and I'm a member of the good idea of the day club, a good idea of the minute club. I could come up with a great idea, I could get it moving, but I can't necessarily keep it running or make sure that it happens before I've gone on to the next idea. This becomes difficult in business. You always need to have follow through, which, like I said, another area. Implementer is another area, and the fact finder is another area. So these are extremes, and all of us have a little bit of all of them, but mine tends to be very large in the quick start area and low in the others. You need to have people of all types, of all strengths, to be able to move forward in life, to be able to do things, make things happen in life. And so if you're having an area in your life where you're too much an idea person, or you have too much initiative in getting things done, but you don't necessarily have the right things to get done, you may lack in the quick start. Or if you have, and it's not that you have too much, but that you have too much in comparison to everything else, so that you have a difficulty getting one area of business, one area of your projects done. If that occurs, then you got to make sure and look into Kolbe, Kolbe.com. Some great stuff. I don't get paid by Kolbe or anything else, but life-changing information. And talk to somebody. Talk to somebody who has a background in this that can walk you through it, find out exactly kind of where you stand on these things. Go and take the Kolbe A index. It's a little test that you take to show you exactly where you stand on things and what you're lacking, and the type of people that you should team up with to move forward in life. That's all I got for today. This is a little memento that I can now toss in the garbage because I got a nice story out of it. So you have a great day. We'll see you next time. Go check out my training on content marketing, especially if you're not sure whether it's right for you or not. Contentmarketingquestion.com. Contentmarketingquestion.com. I got plenty of other audios and videos back in the archives of this podcast that you can find out more at brianjpombo.com if you're wanting to find out more about content marketing for free. But if you want a real lowdown, quick and dirty of whether it's right for you or not, contentmarketingquestion.com. That's all I got. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, get out there and let the magic happen.